Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Advisory Board meeting tonight, June 8th, 2023. I would like to advise all that this meeting is being broadcast live on Spectrum Channel 180 on the Henry County and on the Henry County website. For anyone wishing to speak tonight, a total of 10 minutes will be allowed for anyone wishing to speak in favor of a case and 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. For example, if 10 people wish to speak, they must share the 10-minute slot. The cases that are being presented, a total of 20 minutes will be allowed for anyone wishing to speak in favor and 20 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. We will now hear the invocation and pledge by Mrs. Randolph.
Just want to say a little word about, as we all travel each and every day to our various places and meetings, that we travel in safety, that we get to our destinations and have fruitful occurrences and events between each other. May we hear as well as we can another's side and opinion. May we understand and listen as we deliberate over the actions today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is now called to order. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda with case VR 2309 being moved as the second case and CU 2203 being the first case?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Staff, do we have any comments? Okay. If there's no comments from the staff, we would like to move forward and hear the first case.
Latavia Belmore of McDonough, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 450 Oakland Road in land lot 206 of the 6th district. The property consists of 4.55 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a non-commercial kennel. District 5, presented by Kenta Lamna, Planner 2. Latavia Belmore of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development standards for property located at 450 Oakland Road in land lot 206 of the 6th district. The property consists of 4.55 plus or minus acres, and the request is for relief from supplemental standards. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 2.
Good evening, Chair, board members, and citizens of Henry County.
Good evening.
The two items before you is property located at 450 Oakland Road is approximately 4.55 plus or minus acres. The first request before you is for conditional use CU 2203 to allow a non-commercial kennel, and the variance request VR 2309 is for relief from supplemental standards for non-commercial kennels. The subject property is shown in your exhibit books as well as on the overhead projection screen shown in green. Once again, property is currently zoned RA, residential agricultural, approximately 4.55 plus or minus acres. This is the survey that was submitted by the applicant that is dated March 9th, 2023. The applicant is requesting a conditional use for a non-commercial kennel for the purpose of keeping 5 dogs. The county code currently allows up to 4 adult pets on a given property. Any more in an approved conditional use is required. The applicant intends to utilize 2 existing detached sheds for kennel buildings for the dogs on site. Non-commercial kennels are required to meet supplemental standards section 40301F, as in Frank, which requires all structures to meet a 50-foot setback from adjacent residential properties. The concurrent variance, VR 2309, is for relief from the supplemental standards previously mentioned. The existing structures on site are unable to meet the 50-foot setback required by the supplemental standards, and that's as indicated on the survey. Again, that was dated March 9th, 2023. The current home is 45.3 feet from the south property line. The existing frame barn is approximately 15 feet from the south property line, and the two existing frame sheds to be used for the kennels are approximately 30 feet from the south property line. Here is an aerial of the property. So here we have the home. And forgive me, these property lines on the tax assessor's website, they're not 100% accurate. They're a little bit off. The sheds are right around in this area, and the frame barn, as previously mentioned, is around here. Again, home is 45.3 feet from south property line, the barn 15, and the two existing frame sheds approximately 30 feet. I do also want to mention that we have received a few calls within the past week regarding this request, many of which have been in opposition to the requests. We have also received an email of opposition from a Mr. David Quiv Lee, who was unable to attend the meeting. A copy of that email was provided via email to you all via one of our planners. I have also provided each of you a copy. Recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the applicant's conditional use request for a non-commercial kennel with the following conditions. Approval of this conditional use for the use as a non-commercial kennel shall be forfeit upon a change of ownership of the subject property. Condition 2, number of pets on the property shall be limited to 5. For the variance, staff does recommend approval of the applicant's request to reduce the setback required for structures from 50 feet to 15 feet with the following conditions. This approval of the variance request shall only be applicable to the structures identified on the survey dated March 9th, 2023, and shall only be applicable if the property is used as a non-commercial kennel. If the property or any structure is demolished in its entirety, including the foundation, any new structure must meet the setback requirements of the non-commercial kennel supplemental standards as outlined in section 40301F, as in Frank, of the ULDC. And that would be minimum setbacks from any residential zoning district for any buildings or structures to be 50-foot setback. Thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Does the board have questions for staff?
Not at this time.
Okay. I have one question. Now, this is all existing structures?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. If there's no further question, we'd like the applicant to come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Latavia Belmore at 450 Oakland Road, McDonough, Georgia 30253.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to add to staff recommendation?
Yes, I would like to add. So the purpose really for my dogs, why I do have 5, is because I do use them to go out to, I'm nervous, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
To, I'm sorry.
See if he can.
I use them for the nursing homes. I bring them as they're.
Is it okay if I speak for my sister?
That's fine.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
thank you
State
so
your
much.
name
She's
and
very
address.
nervous
Please state
public
your name and
speaking.
address, please.
My name is Kadeen Felton. Do you need my address?
Yes.
It's 1410 Villa Point Parkway.
Okay.
And as I stated prior, this is my sister. She basically has been taking care of her dogs prior to moving to 450 Oakland Road. We understand that it does seem like a lot of pets, but She just couldn't find it in her heart to get rid of them if, you know, someone didn't adopt them. She does adopt the dogs out if they do have babies, to good, loving homes for people who are looking for boxers, people who have lost their boxers. The ones that she does keep, she takes them to nursing facilities, to cheer elderly people up. She's donated dogs to special needs services. It was a school, excuse me, to a special needs school. She basically loves her dogs, and she's only doing this now because there were so many complaints, and this was advised to her that this would be a way where she can continue to keep her dogs at home. She had no intentions of starting a kennel. It was just brought to her attention that that's what she needed to do because of all of the complaints regarding it. Since moving to 450 Oakland Road, she has been harassed a lot by her neighbors. That's why she's very nervous today. And she's just basically wanting to keep her pets at home.
Anything further you would like to add?
Anything further you'd like me to?
I have some photos if you guys.
Yeah, she has some testimonies and some photos of just things that she's done over the years. She'd like to submit to you guys.
Okay. All right.
You said provide
Okay,
that?
does the,
We give them to veterans.
They also adopt out a lot of the dogs to veterans.
okay, thank you. Now, does the board have questions for the applicant?
I just had one question. Have you ever, with your dogs, either the dogs you have now or previously, have you ever had dogs that you've had complaints about? Have they ever bitten anyone? Have they ever had any issues, or all of the complaints are just about the sound?
No, I've never had them bite anyone. They're not aggressive towards anyone. They only bark when someone comes all the
On
way
the
up
property.
to the property, or sometimes
Close
we
to the
have coyotes and deers that come in the back. But other than that, they're not aggressive. They're raised around my children.
Yeah.
They go around other dogs with no problems. And
Seniors, we have photos of that as well.
And the dogs only bark if someone come close to the fence, too close to where the house
we
is.
Correct.
That's the only time they bark. The dogs don't bark like some
Just
people
randomly,
say they
yeah.
randomly or come to the porch and bark. No, only if you come like close to the property they bark at you, and that's all.
So I've had a few of my neighbors, I guess they thought that they were my dogs only because I have the number of dogs, but there's dogs in the
In the community,
subdivisions
yeah.
way on the other side that barks all night. My neighbor, her dog barks also, but I'm very cautious of when they bark. They're not barkers, and if they do bark, I bring them inside. My dogs are brought inside the home. They're not just out there just barking
On their own,
and
yeah.
out of control.
And there's cameras all around the property, so that way she can keep a close eye on them and, to see kind of what they're barking at, if someone's pulling in UPS or, different things like that.
Can you please expound on the type of complaints you've received from your neighbors?
Well, since moving to the property, neighbors have called the cops because she's had work done to make it, livable for her children and herself. And they've called the cops based on that. They've called animal control, saying that the complaint was that the conditions were not correct, but all of the claims that the neighbors have made, none of them have been true. And that's when someone from animal control advised her that because of the number of dogs that she had, in order to eliminate all of these complaints, the best thing for her to do was to petition for a commercial kennel, because then she would be within her legal rights to have her pets.
Okay. Any, Good.
So you're really saying there's really not, you're not going to be working it as a commercial kennel, but this was
No,
to
this-
enable you to keep that number of dogs?
Correct, yes, yeah. But if the dogs do mate, because, they're dogs, she can't, of course, keep all of them. So she does opt to adopt them, like families who are in need of them. She doesn't advertise for any of this stuff. This is all just family and word of mouth. I, in fact, have 2 of the boxers that came from other family members of ours as well, friends, things like that. So if she can find them a good home, then that's what she does. She does also give them to like the school and veterans and things like that are looking for companion and service dogs.
And those dogs are not pit bulls; those are boxers.
Boxers,
Yeah.
yes.
So on this property, I didn't see on the display, is there a section of fencing that's there that will,
Yes, in the front yard, it is fenced off, so that's primarily where the dogs get an opportunity to kind of run around, get some exercise, play. So that's primarily where they can do that at, because the rest of the property is just open.
okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? I have one question. I noticed you mentioned that animal control came out. Have you been cited?
No, never a citation at all.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay, if not, you may be seated. At this time, we would like to
Thank
allow, about 17 minutes. This is a combined case. We'd like to allot 17 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? I don't see anyone coming forward, so I'm going to allot a total of 20 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition.
Chair, before we do, I would like to quickly address Mr. Richardson's
Yes, please.
comments regarding the fence. So the fence in the front yard that was described, that is this line right here.
Okay,
No other fence appears to be in the back.
okay. Now, where's the front of the house? Show that.
Yes, so this is Oakland Road, fronts on Oakland Road. Here is that house, that greenhouse, frame barn, frame sheds.
Okay. And being that you're there, how far does this property extend to the rear?
According to this number here, over 1,000 feet, 1,031 feet and 0.98 feet.
Okay. Okay, and let's, for the record, let's talk about the variance in terms of the distance. What area are we concerned with?
So for the variance request, the supplemental standards for non-commercial kennels requires all buildings to be at least 50 feet from the property line. Currently, the frame house is 45.3 feet. The barn is, I think I mentioned 15 feet, and the sheds, that is approximately 30 feet. So all of the structures, including the home, is within that 50-foot setback that's established by the non-commercial supplemental standards.
Okay.
Just for a frame of reference, the RA zoning district, the development standards requires a 20-foot side yard setback. Those supplemental standards for non-commercial kennels go above and beyond the traditional RA setback standards.
Okay. And these are all existing structures?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, again, we have 20 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Kelly Simpson. I'm at 742 Oakland Road, McDonough, Georgia, and I've been there for 27 years. Okay, I really would like to just address the board real quick. we are all, at this point in time, I have a petition that we accumulated, which is pretty much everybody on the street of Stone Road, which is adjacent or right beside Oakland Road. They sort of go into a V. There are 45 names on here saying we do not want this. We can show you that she is going to be breeding these animals. First of all, I'm a special ed teacher. I've been teaching for 16 years, and if you brought a boxer into my classroom, I would tell you to get the heck out, because children that are autistic and boxers have a very, very deep history of aggression. So I just want to tell you this much. The thing that bothers me is the data shows in the state of Georgia that this is the 8th most dangerous dog. Not a pit bull. I'm not talking about a pit bull. I'm talking about a boxer. In 2022, there were over 74 reports over the year that there were attacks that caused serious bodily harm, as well as 9 deaths, okay? Some of the characteristics of these dogs, they're extremely, extremely active. These pens, they don't need to be at least 5 of them in a pen at one time. You look it up right now and it'll show you. They are very protective of their owners, which most dogs can be. Restless, headstrong, and very aggressive. If you also look at their DNA of boxers, it is very aggressive. Their DNA shows very aggressiveness. I didn't make this DNA up. This is what data shows. You can't go against the data. Just think about it. If you were in your yard and you're 15 feet away, and here's the kennels, and you're 15 feet away in your pool, the dogs, I know, I've seen them going down the road. I've seen some in the front yard, and they're not in kennels. I've seen where they cleared the front part off. They were going to put the kennels in the front, but I've seen 2 rats actually cross the street coming from that area. Let's talk also about the smell. Let's talk about the barking. Our records will show that there's going to be more than 5 dogs. And then let's say you do have 5 dogs, and if you breed them, it'll show by her Facebook page, her advertisement purposes. Also, she wants to go to nursing homes. These pictures are wonderful, but these people in the pictures, those are elderly people, and they have puppies. Where was this? When was this? What date was this? And are these her actual dogs? Look at the facts. You have to look at the data. Then I would like to give her some information. There is Praying for Paws here in Henry County. They are excellent. They have the kennels. They have everything that you can think of where people can adopt these dogs. I'm a dog lover. My heart goes out to you, and I praise you for trying to keep these dogs. But, you can only have so many. I do want to tell you that we can prove once again tonight the breeding, the boarding, and the grooming. If you go down on Oakland Road at night, there's coyotes, there's deer. My husband and I just saw 4 deer last couple months ago that are 8-pointers and 10-pointers. When you see a deer coming up, those dogs see a deer, what are they going to do? They're going to bark. They don't bark just at people. They bark at animals. They bark at deer. I have all kinds of pictures of wildlife still in my backyard. I have a picture of the deer if you like to see. They're going to bark. So you get 5 of them. Then you start breeding, and you get, 1 litter could be 5 to 6, 7, dogs. She's paid $522.75 to get this going. We have floor plans here, ladies and gentlemen. The floor plans. If this floor plan doesn't work, she goes to floor plan number 2. If floor plan number 2 doesn't work, she goes to floor plan number 3, which says office. Okay? Like I said, it brings down our home, our value of our home, and think about it. Would you want someone besides you having 5 dogs in a kennel, and you at your pool or you at your garden, and hearing constant? Think about it as well. It says right here, criteria point 4 under the Henry County Zoning and Advisory Board, protect the public's interest. Resale of houses, the noise, the smell, buffers. There are no more buffers because they've cut every one of them down. On the gentleman that can't be here tonight, Mr. David, they cut down they cut down some of the trees back there, and one of the trees fell on his fence. Have they apologized? No. Have they fixed it? No. That was almost a year ago. It's still not fixed. Nothing's done. So we're a little bit frustrated. We love dogs. I love people. I love dogs. I teach special ed. We're all different. We are all to love each other. But this has gone a little bit too far, and we've all had enough of it. So I think we can come to an agreement tonight, but Praying for Paws is a really good organization where people would love to just, if you give them the dogs, they will adopt them. They do all of their neutering. They do everything. So really, at this point in time, I would like for my friend to come up here and show you how we know that she is wanting to breed and resell based on the neck collars and the different colors. And I think, did they have a copy of that?
Yes.
Good. Okay, thank you.
When we went out on Miss Belmore's,
Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Jean Dykes. I live at 402 Oakland Road, and I've been there 25 years. So when we went to her Facebook page, which you have copies, some snapshots that we took, you'll notice, Facebook doesn't allow you to sell, but you'll notice that she shows the litters and that she shows their puppy pictures and then the home they went to. And there's also a slide in there that says her website is coming. So if she doesn't want to have puppies and wants to keep only 5 dogs, why aren't they neutered and spayed? So my thoughts is that she's not been truthful with her intent. The letter intent that we have from an open records request is changed. I called yesterday and had the letter of intent read to me over the phone. And her letter of intent said she wants to keep her dogs, but it also, and the other one was about the setback. Well, I'm just not sure we can trust her letters of intent. She's already selling dogs. She's got a website coming. I think there's more to it than what she's telling us. And if we allow this, who's going to police it? We do not want to constantly be in strife and conflict in our neighborhood. We don't want to have to be bothered by the noise. It is a nuisance, smells, everything else that comes with dog ownership. The yard being torn up, it's a visual eyesore. So, you know, I can't help but question how we've got 45 signatures of 45 people in the neighborhood. Almost every single neighbor doesn't want this. But we would do this for this one family that's new to the neighborhood and has broken several ordinances since moving here. I would just wish that they would be good neighbors and just be good to us. And with David Cavaldi's letter, I hope that you've read that because it is very strong. And her property line backs up to his barn. And with her structure plans that she's put into this file and into this request, we don't know where she wants to place that, her new building. Is it within 15 feet of his barn? That's his concern. He's out of town. That's why he couldn't be here, but he did send you a letter. And I do hope that you'll look at those Facebook pages, but again, I just think that we should stop this before there's just trouble on and on and on. And like I said, we don't want to be the neighborhood police. We don't even want to be here. We didn't want this to happen. But it's our only choice to protect our property value and our resale value. It would be very hard to sell a home if you live next to a dog kennel. Thank you.
Okay. We have 10 minutes and 48 seconds for anyone else wishing to speak in opposition. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Steve O'Brien. I live at 415 Oakland Road, which is right across the street from Jean's house on Oakland Road. Could you put up the map of her house, please, for the board, please? I just want to let the board know I have worked, as well as most of the people in here, with the county for zoning issues, the Oakland Road project, and numerous issues, and we have always been able to work with the boards and the commissioners to have a positive result on all of our issues that have come in the past. This is the first time I've seen this much opposition, and so I just wanted to put a couple of things out there that I have experienced living across the street. Okay. Most of these people in here have been here for 20 or 30 years or more. Some of them are farmers that have been there for over 50 years. So this is not a subdivision. These are people that are embedded in the community, and they are active in the community and all the zoning issues that have come up in the past. We've raised cattle, sheep, chickens, dogs, everything out here. So none of this is new to us, except this situation that we're dealing with right here. If you look at the map, okay, you'll notice that there's a fence on the right-hand side of the house. There's the fenced-in area. It's a 4-foot hurricane fence. And that's where, from where I can see, that's where the dogs normally are. I know she puts her dogs up in the house or in the outbuildings. I'm not sure. But my experience is that I sit in my living room 24 hours a day. I've got dogs barking at me. When I open my door and open my windows, I have dogs that bark at me unrestricted for hours at a time. Every time I walk out to my house, I have dogs, okay? Now, these are not poodles. These are not house dogs. These are working dogs. These are boxers, number 8 on the list. And there's one male that's very aggressive, okay? It's nonstop. I mean, I go into my house. I work at night. I work on night shift at the prison. I go into my front room in my house with my doors open. The dogs stand there at the fence and bark all night long, okay? I walk to my car, the dogs bark. I'm having construction work done at my house. I stand out in the yard. Dogs are at the fence barking, okay? It's nonstop. Okay, it stops periodically for a short period of time, but everybody is familiar with Ordinance 1212 of the Henry County Code. That's why we're here. Okay, if she had brought dog number 5 in, we were told that dog number 5 was the issue. Bringing in dog from another county or from somebody else in was the issue here. That's not the issue. The issue is right here in Ordinance 1212. And I'll be glad to submit an affidavit, but basically it's the constant barking of the dogs. And I don't know what contact you've had with the animal control, but that's from my perspective. Now, some other issues have come up, that I was not aware of. So is whether or not we're going to have, are we just boarding dogs? Or are we breeding dogs? Or are we grooming dogs? Or, I mean, are we building a business here with more dogs? That, you know, at first it was portrayed, I'm just keeping a dog for a friend, dog number 5. Well, this has been 2 years ago. Well, you know, dogs come and go, so we stuck, is 5 dog the limit? Is that the issue here? I understand, I just found out that we're selling dogs on the internet, and I didn't know that. The puppies, are we breeding them? Are we keeping puppies? Are we selling puppies? You know, that's a breeding operation. This property here, we've had water issues in the past. This property actually is a drain. 14 acres of land drains right through that property. In her driveway, you can see there's a picture. There's a water hole. It's an aquifer. It runs. There's a culvert. If you look at the cul-de-sac that's at the corner, all that water runs downhill through that cul-de-sac and right into the aquifer that feeds all of our wells. Okay, and runs within about 30 feet behind my house. That's just an environmental question I have. That's just something that just popped up. So this is kind of a exploratory session for me. But all these people are animal lovers. Okay. I know her neighbors are dog lovers. We all have family. We all have children. We all have grandchildren, okay? And when you're standing there looking at a vicious dog barking at you with his teeth snarling, y'all know the history of Georgia. You know why there's a list of 10 most feared dogs in Georgia, okay? So the height of the fence, okay? So her dogs are now restrained in a 4-foot-high hurricane fence. We know the dogs can climb the fence, okay? We know we've had an incident where one of the dogs climbed the fence, okay? Most kennels, think about it, anytime you walk a kennel, most times the kennel is 6 feet or 8 feet tall, and in some circumstances, the kennels have a top to keep dogs from getting out. Under a normal, if it was a poodle or a house dog, that would be different. These are working dogs. They hear everything, they see everything, they're excellent guard dogs. These are excellent guard dogs. There's no sound that doesn't get noticed. Our area is a little valley. They hear everything. They hear everything all night long, and they respond. The code says, some code has said 12 minutes, some code has said 15 minutes, some code has said 30 minutes, some code has said an hour. These dogs bark all night, okay? There needs to be some control here. You know, when I sit in my house and open my front door and I got dogs barking at me from across the road, it's very irritating. It's just very, if I sit on my porch and try to make a phone call, I've got barking dogs, okay? So the map is kind of misleading. It appears that the business is going to be in the back of the house, but actually all the dogs, as far as I see, are kept in the front, okay, behind a 4-foot fence. So that's what I can see from where I'm at. Of course, there's concerns about sanitation. We're on septic tank. How many dogs? How's the sewage going to be handled or treated, or where's it going to go? Is it going to run down the hill into the creek? We don't know. I just want to hit on the fact that in the past we have used the county to mediate we've had issues with roads and rezoning and everything else. We've always used the county to resolve it, and y'all do a great job, and I appreciate it. And that's basically all I have to say, unless y'all have any questions of me.
No. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
We have 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? No, hold on. Again, we have 2 minutes and 33 seconds for anyone else wishing to speak in opposition. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Jean Dykes, 402 Oakland Road. And I'm going to speak on behalf of my neighbor and their neighbor, Bonnie Smith, who she has been charged by one of these dogs. Luckily, she was inside her pool fence, and it kept the dog from getting to her. But there is at least one that is vicious, and he has come over the fence, as Steve was mentioning. But Bonnie feels like she can't go out in her yard. Her yard is on the driveway side of that property. And you can see pictures of the fence open where the dogs have been out also. And it's not safe for Bonnie or her grandchildren to be out there. And she really can't enjoy her swimming pool in the summer because of these dogs. And I just am, like I said, I'm speaking for her. Thank you.
Okay, we have 1 minute and 28 seconds for anyone else wishing to speak in opposition. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Susan McAleer, and I live at 355 Oakland Road.
I'm Bill McClear, 355 Oakland Road, husband and wife, but we've been here since
95.
Yeah, since 1995, and
we're not exactly close to the area, but we hear dogs barking, it may not be from her, it could be from the subdivision, but that would contribute to the area. So we don't need a bunch more dogs barking at night, especially. And I just want to say we're in opposition.
Right. And that's basically it. We're in opposition of it due to the fact that we're hearing a lot of complaints. We do have a homeowners association. It's not a incorporated type homeowners association. And we haven't had any problems until this has come up. And like we said, we did have a petition go around and people just didn't like it. So we're hoping the board can work with us to resolve it. We understand she has good purpose in what she wants to do with the dogs, but there's a limitation, especially when you're hearing of one of our neighbors almost getting bit and threatened with the dogs. So we're in opposition right at this time unless things can change with how they're going to do it and present it. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. That concludes our time. All right. Does the board have additional questions for staff or the applicant?
Yes, sir.
We do. Okay. For the applicant?
Yes.
Yeah. Come forward, please. Let's start on my left over here.
Can you explain to me what are the dimensions of the kennels that you're proposing? I mean, I saw the width and everything, right? But what is the height?
The dimensions is, the first one is a 10 by 12. I was getting those made into small like apartments for them because I wanted them to be able to have like their own little homes. And my oldest dog is 8, and my male that they're saying is aggressive, he's not aggressive, he's neuter. I only have one male, and he was given to me by a firefighter, a couple here in Henry County. And my dogs they've never,
You want to speak for your sister, or can you answer the questions that we're...
So I don't personally know the dimensions of the kennels.
It's 8 by 12.
8 by 12. They are not completed
8 by 12.
because of
8 by 12.
this situation that has been going on with the neighbors. Everything was just kind of halted because monies had to be allocated towards a privacy fence that was put up in between where the neighbor, I guess Bonnie, lives on the opposite side. So monies that were initially supposed to be to have that shelter for the dogs in the winter and things like that had to be allocated to the privacy fence because the harassment just continued on.
Okay.
And the dog that she's speaking of that approached her is an elderly dog over 7 years old.
Excuse me. At this point, we're just going to address the questions that's being asked.
Yes, sir.
Because we went through a time frame of...
Yes,
all
and I
the-
understand. I just
Okay.
didn't expect for all of these people, not knowing anything about it, to
Okay, I
just come
understand.
with everything. So we didn't have an opportunity to address.
All right, Ms.
Yeah.
Walker.
Have you ever met with the neighbors, or have the neighbors ever come to you and sit down and talk about any of the issues?
Yes, actually, personally myself, when I used to live, I moved from Colorado, so when I was living with my sister, Mr. O'Brien actually was very nice to us, very nice, and he spoke very negatively about the other neighbors and told us not to.
No, that's not what I'm asking about.
Yeah,
I'm asking about did you ever, okay, you have all these people that are complaining. Have you guys ever sat down and had a meeting about, these are the issues, this is what we think we can do?
No, none of them have ever come
Okay.
to us, no.
Okay, thank you. All right. Ms. Randolph.
I have a question for staff and for the applicant. For staff, so help us understand the non-commercial kennel piece of this particular. Does that mean breeding, no breeding? What does that mean?
That is an excellent question. Before I get into that, I will like to briefly describe commercial kennel, just because that was brought up a little bit. Commercial kennel is essentially for boarding and care for dogs, such as boarding, grooming, for example, as well. Non-commercial kennel Non-commercial kennel, as per our definition in the ULDC, specifies any single-family residence in the RA zoning district where no more than 10 adult dogs and/or cats are kept as pets for non-commercial purposes of hunting, exhibition and shows, field trials, or breeding. Surplus offspring bred at such kennels to enhance or perpetuate any given breed recognized by the American Kennel Club may be sold at such kennels and shall not be considered a commercial activity. All animals kept or maintained in said kennel must be owned by the individual or family residing upon the lot upon which the kennel is located. So non-commercial kennel, there's a lot said there. That does allow for breeding. In previous cases of non-commercial kennels, certainly breeding has been a topic. Another sort of use, quote unquote, for a non-commercial kennel is to increase the allowable number of pets. The county code allows for up to 4 pets. In this instance, it is an instance of 5 pets, which in the past, historically, a non-commercial kennel conditional use has been the appropriate process to allow, again, for more than 4 pets. Up to 10 pets. Adult pets, I want to be clear.
Thank you. And I have a question for the applicant.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Do you all have a business around the boxers, and if so, what is it?
Do you want to answer that?
Yes,
Go ahead.
so I do have Belmore's Boxers. I originally started Belmore's Boxers because I started doing coconut oils that can be put into the dog food. And so upon everything with the county and animal control and police officers, I did need a business license to be able to do the non-commercial kennel that I'm doing and to be able to sell my oils. And sometimes I do blankets. I also have a blanket business as well.
At the same location.
That's fantastic blanket, but I'm not a breeder. I know they've seen things online. People come to me and they ask me about dogs and prices and things like that. And I can't register. There's no other registration when I register that is other than a breeder or a retail store or something that is not what I do. So I have to, under the sections that you choose Belmore Boxers, is a breeder. But I'm not advertising. If I have people that call me and they've lost their dogs, or I only deal specifically with families that has and knows boxers. That's it.
Which was all prior to her moving to 450 Oakland Road. This is all not since she's been at 450 Oakland Road. This has been years prior to Oakland Road.
Thank you.
I'll get back to you. I'll get back to the side, but I have to entertain Mr. VM.
So are you, intend to breed the animals?
No, it's not my intention to breed them. I've had my dogs, if they mate, they mate. I don't force breed them. I'm not putting them together purposely and breeding them. If I do have a female that becomes pregnant, I do have options. I'm not just like breeding a bunch of litters and making a bunch of profits off of them. That's not what I'm doing. That was never my intention at all to do that. It's just through family and friends. They ask me, like, when are you going to have a litter? And I even tell them it could be 3-4 years before I even have a litter, because I don't force breed my dogs at all.
Are they all your dogs, or are you keeping them for someone else?
Yes, they are my dogs. My sister, she has one of my boxers, and sometimes he do come over, but he's back with them at her apartment. But they are my dogs, and anybody that knows me and know my dogs, they've been around them. They've been around family. They've gone to events. They're not
talking
working
about the one that
dogs.
you were keeping, the one that you were keeping for the other lady.
The one with the puppies. So sometimes I have friends that have the boxers, and they breed their dogs. And this one's incident, which is just this only has happened. The dog was not nursing and caring for the puppies, and they started getting malnourished and sick. So she brought them over to me, and I was able to just help her get the mom back healthy and the baby back healthy. But that
was a one-time incident, yeah.
Over the years, I've had many animals, dogs, cats, and I've always had them spayed or neutered. Is there a reason why you haven't spayed or neutered yours?
Well, I have one of them. They are neutered, and I don't spay and neuter them because sometimes if they do have the litter, my goal that I really wanted to be able to do with them was to give them out as service animals to like people, like vets that can't afford them. I've had them gone to 2 vets already. And the special education classroom is in Hall County, and she raises it from a puppy and incorporates it into her classroom. She says she's done it before with her boxer that she's had. So when I, had donated the boxer puppy to her, that was her plans, because I have text message and everything between us with her saying, the kids are a lot more calmer when they do have the puppy in the classroom, and they're socialized, they're around children. Even the boxers that I keep in contact with all my families, and
so long story short, she's happy. It brings her pleasure with why she hasn't neutered or spaded them, because she finds joy in giving them to families who will love them, keep up with her, follow up with her. She's happy doing it.
And the Facebook page was just.
I said, Mr. Risher.
I'm looking at the survey plat that you submitted with your application, and I'm wondering if you have thought about having this fenced area in the front of the house moved to the rear yard, which probably would be more.
That was actually.
Wait, let me finish.
Okay.
I think that would be more secure from the neighborhood, but also the frame barn, which I think is going to be your kennel. It's already non-conforming. It encroaches into the side yard setback. So have you thought about moving that building or building a new kennel building where in the backyard where it would fit the setback requirements for an accessory building for a non-commercial kennel?
Yes, sir, that was considered, but as we previously stated, a lot of the plans to do this isn't the first go-around with this. Everything was just kind of halted because when we did the first variance, there was a lot of pushback and we had to stop. And we paid for a surveyor to come out at that time as well, and then had to have the property resurveyed. So a lot of the funds that we had to do that were allocated towards privacy fence and other things because of the complaints from the neighbors. So everything was just kind of halted, but that was our original plan.
So that's not a consideration then?
I'm sorry?
I said that's not a consideration by you?
No, it's a consideration.
It is a consideration, yes.
That's what I want to do. I want to had moved the fence in the front to the back. But my husband's a trucker, and that's where they're getting the mistake of the land being cleared. We cleared out some trees to do a roundabout for his truck. It wasn't never to build additional kennels or anything like that. But with everything that's happened, that's been going on, I can't move forward with what I want to do for my dogs.
Ms. Walker, I'm sorry, excuse me one second. Mr. Risher, are you complete? Any further questions?
Chair, before we move on, Mr. Risher, I did want to quickly clarify that all of the structures are in compliance with our code, accessory structure setbacks and whatnot, with the exception, and you did mention this in your question, with the exception of the non-commercial supplemental standards. That is when it requires that 50-foot setback. completely forgetting everything about non-commercial kennels for this property. Just bear with me. Accessory structures, that requires to be at least 10 feet from the property line, side property line. The home, an RA, at least 20 feet. All of those current existing structures do meet those requirements. Again, it's just the 50-foot setback when it comes to the non-commercial kennel. I just wanted to make that clear real quick.
Okay. Ms. Walker.
I just have one question. You keep saying you give it to you for your friends and your family or whatever. Do you sell the dogs or not? That's what I'm really asking.
I do sell them, but that's not my main.
Okay, I just
goal
wanted to ask that.
to selling them.
And to be clear, that would be allowed under the non-commercial
Yeah, I got you.
kennel.
Okay. Now, I have questions for the county, I think, first. Under non-commercial, as of this point, how many dogs can she keep at that property?
Without non-commercial kennel,
Yes.
up to 4.
Okay.
With a non-commercial kennel, we allow up to 10. With that approved conditional use, of course. If it's the pleasure of the board to reduce that number, it's totally acceptable.
Okay, I'm just trying to get to a point here.
Yes, sir.
If for any reason this is not approved, how many dogs can she continue to keep at that property?
That would be 4.
Okay. Okay. My question to the applicant, how long have you owned 5 dogs?
I've owned 5 dogs from before I moved here.
Before you moved, how long have you been in the property?
For 3 years.
3 years?
Yes.
So you've owned 5 dogs since you've been there?
Yes, I've had them at my other
I
other
understand.
house.
And
when I came, the dog with that was turned over to me from the firefighters. I was trying to originally rehome him, but because he was already a little bit older, no one had wanted him, and he was so well behaved and doing well with the children. I just kept.
I got you. Now, some of your neighbors complain about barking. How often do your dogs bark? What do you honestly deal with your dogs?
I can honestly say they bark very rarely. I have videos at different days and different times. They don't even bark at the cars that drive by. They don't even bark at the squirrels. It's literally, and I have my surveillance when a coyote had came, like the fence was right here, and it came close to the fence. And then I looked out and I saw the coyote, and my husband went and shoot it away. But when they bark like at animals like that, we bring them inside. We never leave them out to bark in.
Okay, that's all I have for now. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant? Okay.
Can I say something? As far as the smell of the waste, I've never had a complaint because I clean up and I use cedar and hay and lime and things to keep the smell at bay. And I also have a commercial dumpster that comes every Tuesday, and everything is dumped and taken away. So even when animal control came, there was no smell or anything like that. I've never had a complaint of smells about my animals.
Now, speaking of animal control, why did animal control come out to your location?
Someone made a complaint that I was a backyard breeder and my dogs were tied up under the house and being neglected.
Okay. And at that point, animal control advised that you get a license for.
Yes, we were talking, and then he said to be able to avoid this type of situation, since he allowed me, he said that he would allow me to have the 5 dogs, but after I read everything with the county, and it says that the 4 is the limit, when he told me about the license and the non-commercial kennel license for me to apply for it, I did just that. What he said, everything code and animal control and everyone suggested for me to do so I wouldn't have any of these problems or these issues. I've done everything and I've complied with everything.
Thank you. any additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no further questions, we've heard, we'd like to call the case, please.
CU 2203, Latavia Belmore of McDonough, Georgia requests a conditional use for property located at 450 Oakland Road in Land Lot 206 of the 6th District. The property consists of 4.55 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a non-commercial kennel. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 2.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to disapprove CU 2203 for non-commercial kennel.
Okay, have a motion. Do I have a second?
Was it to approve?
Disapprove.
Disapprove, okay.
Yeah, a motion to disapprove CU 2203. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. VM. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Anyone opposed? Have 1, 2, 3, 4 yeas, 1 negative. Motion carries. Okay. Call the next case, please.
BR 2309, Latavia Belmore of McDonough, Georgia requests a variance from development standards for property located at 450 Oakland Road in Land Lot 206 of the 6th District. The property consists of 4.55 plus or minus acres, and the request is for relief from supplemental standards. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 2.
Okay, we've heard the case, VR 230-09. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to disapprove VR 2309.
Have a motion to disapprove VR 2309. Do I have a second? Have a second by Mr. VM. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
All right, call the next case, please.
Com AM 2303. Tushar Patel of McDonough, Georgia requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at east of Jake Lewis Drive, south of the intersection of Highway 81 East and Jake Lewis Drive in Land Lot 174 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.2 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designated for rural residential to commercial. District 1, presented by Kamal Asalam, Interim Assistant Director. RZ 2307. Tushar Patel of McDonough, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C2 General Commercial for property located east of Jake Lewis Drive, south of the intersection of Highway 81 East, Jake Lewis Drive in Land Lot 174 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.62 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a commercial development. District 1, presented by Kamal Asalam, Intern Director, Assistant.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Board members, and citizens of Henry County. The rezoning and comprehensive plan amendment request in front of you is for property located on Jonesboro Road, located south of Highway 81 East, east of the intersection of Highway 81 East and Jake Lewis Drive. The property is currently zoned RA, and the applicant is requesting a rezoning to C2 General Commercial. The property has a future land use designation of low-density residential, and the applicant is requesting a comp plan amendment to commercial, which would support the request for a C2 zoning. The subject property is highlighted in green on each map and is surrounded by commercial and RA zone properties and has a future land use designation of commercial. Here's a future land use map. And the property is real slender, but it's right here hashed in green. The applicant is requesting to rezone 0.62 plus or minus acres from RA to C2. The applicant has also requested a concurrent comprehensive plan amendment request to amend the future land use designation from low-density residential to commercial, which would support the requested rezoning to C2. Rezoning would allow for the subject property to be developed in conjunction with the neighboring property that is already zoned C2, that's not included in this request, as well as the subject property of RZ 2308, which we will discuss after this presentation, for a coffee shop and a fast food restaurant, per the letter of intent dated April 13, 2022. The property is also within the limits of the Highway Corridor Overlay District, which requires a 10-foot multi-use path, street trees, pedestrian lighting, and enhanced architectural material. So for explanation's sake, this property here, the future land use designation is low-density residential, but the developer would like to develop all of this part here and make it consistent. And here's the rezoning map again. So this part is already zone C2. They're just trying to bring this part into it as well as rezone this property, which we'll discuss in a later case. The development does have access to water service, but will need to and has the capacity to install a commercial septic tank. It has no other issues with infrastructure per other Henry County departments such as DOT as well as water and sewer. Staff recommends approval of the request to change the future land use map designation of the subject property from low-density residential to commercial. We also recommend approval of the rezoning the subject property from RA to C2 with the following conditions. So it's 5 total conditions just for this rezoning case. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Does the board have questions for staff? Okay, no questions? All right. If not, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Robert Moore. My address is 402 General Courtney Hodges Boulevard, Perry, Georgia, 31069. I'm here on behalf of the owner of these properties. I'm his civil engineer, and everything that he stated is correct, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have about the property.
Okay. Does the board have questions for the applicant? Okay. Yeah, I don't see anyone coming forward, so you may be seated, sir. We would like to allot 9 minutes and 45 seconds for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. Again, I don't see anyone coming forward. We'd also like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. No one's coming forward. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, if not, call the case, please.
Comp AM. Comp AM 2303. Tushar Patel of McDonough, Georgia requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located east of Jake Lewis Drive, south of the intersection of Highway 81 East and Jake Lewis Drive in land lot 174 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.62 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from rural residential to commercial. District 1, presented by Kamal Asalam, Interim Assistant Director.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Conditions?
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Beam to approve with conditions. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Call the next case, please.
RZ 2307, Tushar Patel of McDonough, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C2 General Commercial for property located east of Jake Lewis Drive, south of the intersection of Highway 81 East and Jake Lewis Drive, in land lot 174 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.62 plus or minus acres, and the request is for commercial development. District 1 presented by Kamal Asalam, Interim Assistant Director.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve with conditions.
Again, we have a motion by Mr. Beam. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Richard. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Call the next case, please.
RZ 2308, Tushar Patel of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C2 General Commercial for property located south of Highway 81 East, east of the intersection of Highway 81 East and Jake Lewis Drive, in land lot 174 of the 7th District. The property consists of 2.92 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a commercial development. District 1, presented by Kamal Asalam, Interim Assistant Director.
Good evening again, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, and citizens of Henry County. The rezoning request in front of you is directly related to the one you just approved, RZ 2307. The subject property is highlighted in green on each map here. It's surrounded by commercial and RA zone properties and has a future land use designation of commercial. The applicant is requesting to rezone 2.92 plus or minus acres from RA to C2. The future land use map designation of the subject property is commercial, which does support C2 as proposed by the applicant. The applicant has also requested concurrent rezoning RZ 2307 and comprehensive plan amendment request COMP AM 2303 for adjacent property. Rezoning would allow for the subject property to be developed in conjunction with the neighboring property that is already zone C2, as well as the subject property of RZ 2307 for a coffee shop and fast food restaurant per the letter of intent dated April 13th, 2022. The subject property is also within the limits of the Highway Corridor Overlay District, which requires 10-foot multi-use paths, street trees, pedestrian lighting, and enhanced architectural materials. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning the subject property from RA to C2 with these 3 conditions on the screen. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have questions for staff? Okay, thank you. If not, we'd like the applicant to come forward. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening again. My name is Robert Moore. My address is 402 General Courtney Hodges Boulevard, Perry, Georgia 31069. Again, I'm here to represent the owner. I'm the civil engineer for him on this project, and I'd be glad to happy to entertain any questions you might have about the development or the rezoning.
Does the board have questions for the applicant? Okay. All right, sir, you indicated that you're representing the owner. Have you been made aware of all of the requirements of the overlay district?
Yes, I'm very well aware of them.
Okay. All right, and you guys are prepared to move forward without any variances or?
That's correct. There's plenty of room on the property for us to abide by the overlay district requirements.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right, does the board have additional questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd like to allow roughly 9 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor. No one's coming forward. We'd like to allow 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Okay. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Paradise Alloway. I'm at 55 Jake Lewis Drive. There are 5 homes down that one road. It's a one road that comes in and come out the same way. And right now, a lot of trucks parked there, and we can't even see the traffic coming from the other side. I'm wondering if we're going to be able to do that with all this that they're trying to put there for our view, because there's no traffic light there for us to come out into the traffic. And if we have to push out further, that's a chance an accident might happen, because it happens that way when the trucks are parked there, and the police comes all the time to make them move the trucks. So I'm wondering, with the stuff that they're putting there, is it gonna cost this for the neighbors that are down the 55 Jake Lewis? Because it's only 5 homes down that road. And it's the only way we come in and come out. And the property he's talking about sits right there, right at the corner of Jake Lewis. And you can't see the view from the other side of 81 coming if there's too much going on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have roughly 8 minutes and 56 seconds. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. I don't see anyone coming forward. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff?
As far as the frontage on 81, that will have to be approved by the transportation department as far as the turn lanes, all of that they would require?
Yes, sir. So Georgia Department of Transportation actually has plans to widen Highway 80 run from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. This doesn't affect the development of the property. They have plenty of space, and they have to preserve right-of-way to make sure that GDOT can do that. And any road improvements thereof will be handled through the development process. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Any additional questions for staff or the applicant? If not, call the case, please.
RZ 2308, Tashar Patel of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C2 General Commercial for property located south of Highway 81 east of the intersection of Highway 81 East and Jake Lewis Drive, in land lot 174 of the 7th District. The property consists of 2.92 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a commercial development, District 1, presented by Kamal Assalam, Interim Assistant Director.
We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve with conditions.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. VM to approve with conditions. Do we have a second? Have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Call the next case, please.
RZ 2225, LGS Holdings Group 2013 LLC of Tucker, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R5 Single Family Residence for property located west of South Lee Road, south of Galway Lane, and east of Wildwood Road in Clayton County, in land lots 13 and 14 of the 3rd District. The property consists of 105.884 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential development. District 1, presented by Kamal Assalam, Interim Assistant Director.
Good evening again. The request in front of you is for property located west of South Lee Road, south of Galway Lane, and east of Wildwood Road in Henry County. The subject property is currently zoned RA, and the applicant is requesting a rezoning to R5 single-family residential. The subject property is highlighted on green and abuts the Henry County, Clayton County southwest line. There are established single-family subdivisions to the north and the west of the subject property. The applicant is requesting to rezone 105.84 plus or minus acres from RA to R5 for the purpose of a single-family subdivision addition. The proposed development would be an extension of the planned Wildwood subdivision within Clayton County. The subject property does not currently have any road access within Henry County. Access to the development would be solely from within the Clayton County portion of the Wildwood subdivision located off of Wildwood Road. The future land use map designation for the subject property is mixed use, which would support a density of up to 16 dwelling units per acre net. The net density of the proposed development is 2.63 dwelling units per acre net. A letter from the Henry County Water Authority dated August 26, 2022 states that water service can be made available to the property by way of a line extension at the developer's expense. Additionally, sewage treatment is available to the subject property. However, an off-site sewer line extension is required at the developer's expense. The proposed development, again, does not and will not have frontage on any Henry County roadway. A traffic impact study will still be required, and the developer should be responsible for any necessary project-related improvements identified in the traffic impact study. Here's some of the elevations examples they've presented to staff. Of course, in between the ZAB meeting and the Board of Commissioners meeting, the developer will have a chance to talk with commissioners to determine what exactly they want the homes to look like. Staff recommends approval of rezoning from RA to R5 with the following conditions that are drafted specifically to require consistency between the Wildwood subdivision in Clayton County and the new extension. Again, this is an addition to a current subdivision that is pre-platted, and it would not have any road frontage on Henry County. And thus, we have 22 conditions that should keep this development consistent with what Clayton County has already approved. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff? Okay. If not, we'd like the applicant to come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Michelle Battle with Battle Law, 3562 Habersham Northlake, Tucker, Georgia, 30083. Thank you. I apologize that I did not get my presentation to staff in sufficient time for them to be able to put it on the larger screen, and I thought I was able to use my jump drive, so I apologize for that. We are excited about this project. I actually worked on the zoning in Clayton County. The Clayton County side of this project is for 224 units. And within that 224 units, there is a passive park area, multiple passive park areas, an open air pavilion, a tot lot. There's also walking trails that are located throughout the community. The project has one side that is going to be serviced by sewer on Clayton County, and on the opposite side of Wildwood, those will be septic lots and much larger lots. The project, as indicated, does straddle both Clayton County and Henry County, and the only access point, again, is from the Clayton County side. I find it interesting that staff has indicated their desire to have compatibility amongst this project, because there are some really distinct differences that staff is actually proposing that we would like to have some dialogue about. If we can go to the next slide. Staff has proposed a few conditions that quite honestly give us a little heartburn, because they would drastically change what we believe is the consistency between the two projects. From our perspective, this is one overall subdivision, and we don't want portions of the subdivision to look drastically different than other portions of the subdivision. And so some of the challenges that we have focus really around the size of the lots that are being proposed by staff. The minimum lot size in Clayton County is the 11,250 square feet. And while we did ask for the 10,890 square foot lot, what staff has now proposed, originally an average lot size of 12,000 square feet, has now turned into a minimum of 11,250 square feet with an average of 12,000 square feet. I think we could probably live with that. I think, but where the challenge comes in is some of the other conditions that staff has put on that really, in kind of a roundabout way, really increases the lot even larger than that. And that poses some problems with how we are actually laying out the site. Additionally, there's some differences with regards to the house sizes on the lots that we also want to work through, but we feel like we will work through those particular issues between Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners meetings with hopes that we leave this space with a recommendation of approval. The larger lot sizes and the issue that we have is that staff is asking not only for us, from our original site plan, which are showing 10,890 square foot lots. And that's a tight site as it is. One of the challenges we have on this site is that we have a significant floodplain that wraps around the outside of the site. So moving further in the floodplain is really not an option for us for a number of reasons. One, it would push the lots on that side of the property into the floodplain. Additionally, by pushing that into the floodplain, we would also be needing to shift the roads. And shifting the roads would then push those into the shallower areas where placing the sewer lines and the like would also be on shallower ground. And that causes problems as well on the site. When we look at, and I don't know if we can go to the site plan, back up to the site plan. All of the floodplain, there is actually a stream. You can see the stream on the, I guess, west side of the property, and then you see stream at the top end of the property, and everything else kind of in between, except for where the lots are, is basically undevelopable areas. Floodplain lying on the north side of the property. So when we're looking at the site as it is now, one of the things that staff is requesting is that we have that 10-foot buffer in between the lots. Well, basically, from what we're gathering, unless that 10-foot buffer is allowed to be within the lots, and staff's one condition is that it has to be outside of the lots. So what you're really saying is not only do we have to have an 11,250 square foot lot, but we also have to tag in an additional 375 square feet between, really kind of tagged on to the back end of each lot, where you have rear lots abutting each other in order to establish that 10-foot undisturbed buffer. Nothing is like that on the Clayton County side. There is no in-between buffer that is required. So now we're already making the lots on the Henry County side look different and requiring the maintenance and upkeep of an area by the HOA that is not required on the Clayton County side. The Clayton County side has all of the amenity areas, which is another issue that we'll discuss, but has the amenity areas on its side, which will be accessible and available to all of the residents on the Henry County side. But other than that, there are none of these kind of in-between buffer areas that are being required by staff. We believe that it would be appropriate for this project to allow, if we're going to have those buffers, to allow them to be on the lot so that we're not having to further expand the size of the lot. Because as you can see, if I have to now, I'm already having to increase the lot size, which in our instance is not necessarily the depth of the lot. We may be looking at the width of the lot. But when we have to tag on that additional area to the back end of the lot, now the lots have to actually get deeper. So they're not only getting wider, but they're getting wider and deeper, which will not hold up under the current street configuration that we have, which we felt was fairly conservative based on the fact that we have to keep out of the shallower part of the area of the site because we can't, again, move into the floodplain area. So that's one of the challenges that we have with what staff has proposed. Additionally, they're requiring us to have a 10-foot buffer along the northern perimeter of the site. And actually, we're not north. North is actually this way. I meant to say the eastern side is where the stream comes through. But on the north side, which is abuts the subdivision that's existing in Henry County, they would like not only a 6-foot fence, but they would also like the 10-foot buffer again. Well, on the Clayton County side, there is also required a 6-foot fence, but there is no buffer requirement. So again, we're looking at having to provide for a buffer that staff has indicated has to be outside of the lot, that the HOA is going to have to maintain along with the fence. We're asking, again, don't treat these subdivisions as if it's not one. It is one subdivision. They've got a 6-foot fence on the Clayton County side, and we ask that we simply have a 6-foot fence on the Henry County side in between the subdivision. That is what is maintaining the distance or the privacy of those two subdivisions. If we're going to have the 10-foot buffer, then please allow us to have that within the interior of the lot. We can do that with an easement. If we want to have some kind of fencing around that to make sure that the residents know that they can't take down any of the improvements or the trees within that space, that's fine. But what we want to make certain is that we can actually develop this for the 112 units in a manner that is consistent with what we have on the Clayton County side. We can go continue up. We've shown you the homes. On the Panhandle architectural, we can go back up. That's fine, right there. On the Panhandle, sorry. On the Panhandle requirements, you can't really see that, but on the Panhandle requirements, one of the other elements, and we'll certainly, again, have probably conversation beyond here, is the requirement that the buildings be 4-sided brick. That is not a requirement on the Clayton County side. The Panhandle requires that the front facade of the building be, I think, 70% brick. We certainly are willing to work with staff, whether it be 100% on the front facade and maybe a water table along the sides, but to tell us that we have to have 4-sided brick homes in an economy where these homes are going to be, well, if you put 4-sided brick, now we're talking about homes in $500,000-$600,000 price range, when we just saw an article that came out today that middle America doesn't have homes to buy. Middle America is folks who are making $75,000 and their purchasing power is about a $256,000 home. Why are we pricing out people that you have to make over 6 figures in order to buy a home in Henry County? So we would ask for some latitude there and for some consideration, but otherwise, we would respectfully request for a recommendation of approval to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Battle. Thank you. Thank you. Does the board have, if you will, maintain Ms. Battle?
Yes,
I'm not sure. I think we may
I wasn't
have
sure
some
if you were
questions.
taking comments first.
Okay. Does the board have, well, we don't have time for anyone speaking in.
I used it all up.
Yeah.
I figured nobody was going to speak.
Does the board have questions for the applicant?
It does connect to the Clayton County subdivision. Is it one HOA for both sides?
Yes, sir.
And
It will be
that's
one
it?
HOA, and it will be from our perspective, it's one subdivision.
From the county rules here, I mean, if it was within Henry County, you'd have two separate entrances connecting to a regular road, not, here you've got it connecting into the subdivision, which really just leads to one point, and there's not really two separate ways to get from Wildwood to the thing without going across the crossing like a choke point. So if there was an accident or something,
I'm not sure if staff could put back up. I don't know if you had the full site plan. I did on mine. I think you pulled that up. We've got we've had 2 different roads on that side, but there are more than one point of entry into the subdivision on Clayton County side.
but if you could pull up the Clayton County side, I could show you what I'm talking about.
Okay, there's a point of entry here. Okay. All right, so there's one point of entry there, and then I'll move it over. And then there's another point of entry here.
Yes.
And all of that flows back up into the back. So there's that point of entry and that point of entry.
Right where like D is on your map?
Yes.
Both of the roads coming out of the Henry County side end up at that point, which is still within the subdivision. If you had some calamity at that corner, there's no way for anybody to get past that into the subdivision. So you don't really have 2 ways out to a main, I don't know, whatever, arterial road or whatever it's called. that's outside of the subdivision?
So when we went through, and this was quite honestly a heavily contested subdivision in Clayton County, it actually ended up in court. The site plan was one that was approved by ZAG. There certainly was discussion about the fact that we were going to have these additional lots coming off of the Henry County side. Obviously, this property is zoned for a much heavier level of intensity than what we are proposing. And we know that the only way, again, to get to this property is to come through the Clayton County side. The site plan, we felt, based on the information that we received from Clayton County, and we may have even had a traffic study on that side. I would have to go back and look. But the points of entry that we have on the Clayton County side were very heavily negotiated with them in terms of location and road improvements that would have to be made on that side. So I understand what you're saying is that when you come out, you're still coming out onto that same road, but there's no ability for us to cross anywhere else. We've got to go through, I guess, what you would almost be asking is for us to put another road that goes straight down in between, I guess, where the pavilion is at, in the green space area here, because I don't see that there would be another way to come out from that side of the property, because we do have those 2 points of entry, and to come straight down, we would literally be crossing through those other lots and through the green space area.
Right. But, our maximum with one entry is 50 in Henry County, but, you got 112 back there that you want to make sure they're safe.
Gotcha. I guess I don't see that as any different if we had this all in Henry County. I don't know that that would be a point of issue, because we would still have the entry points off of Wildwood. We would have more than one point of entry for entrance and exit. So we haven't certainly received that comment from your transportation department.
And I guess for staff, when you do have a large subdivision, you just have 2 entry points up to a certain point, and then you can have 100 homes behind that that just have one?
All of that is handled by the fire department and DOT. Okay. They still would have to review this plan, whether it was approved such as. So up to 49 lots, you can have just one entrance. Past that, you need at least 2. And anything larger than that is up to the determination of the fire department. Okay. So they still have to put their hands on this, even if it were to be approved by the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. If this is approved and all that, I know no ground is broken on the Clayton County side.
Not yet.
How do you imagine the build out of? Is it Henry County first, Clayton County, a mixture?
Well, they definitely will have to build in Clayton County first in order to get back to the Henry County side. So the road system will be installed. They'll have lots, and I'm going to assume that they're probably going to start on the sewer side, because they do have to run sewer as well to the treatment plant. So there will be some desire to move into Henry County, I'm sure, not too far off, but again, because they have to run the sewer in order to allow for the lots and the lot sizes on the Clayton County side.
I'm just, I guess the curious thing about the thing is, who's providing fire protection, police, we're going to have to bus kids through to Henry County schools and that.
Right.
I'd hate to just get a couple of houses built back there and not, have to service that.
Right. Again, I think the interesting piece about this property is landlocked.
Yeah.
And so, again, it could be, anyone could come in here and ask for a much higher density, and the same issues or worse could be involved in that conversation. I think that there is a service agreement to be had between the county and between the two counties with regards to police service and the like. And those are certainly things that we have to address. But before we can address those, we had to address the zoning component of this. So I know that there will be conversation, and there will have to be conversation about which police are going to be servicing here. Will they just allow it to be Clayton County? School system, all of that will have to be addressed through that service agreement.
Question for staff. As far as the conditions on the parks and amphitheater and whatever it was, I forget.
Right, that was actually one of my other issues.
The
I forgot
multiple
that. I ran out of
entertainment
time.
things. Are those required on the Henry County side or just within the whole subdivision, including Clayton County?
So those are actually extra conditions put on by staff. So it's not a requirement.
Okay.
The extra amenities aren't a requirement. No, sir.
And let's see, where is that? So the amenities, a minimum 500 square feet per lot for open space shall be provided. The open space shall be accessible for residents at a minimum passive recreation field, park with children's playground with benches, minimum 1,200 square foot pavilion with fire pit and grilling areas. Would those be located within Henry County, or would they be, in addition to the ones you are already proposing in Clayton County?
Staff's intent is that they located on the Henry County side.
I'm sorry?
Staff's intent is that they be located on the Henry County side.
Okay.
And I can tell you that is a problem for us.
Yeah.
We don't really have space for that, and the park area right now is currently designed. We would literally, based on everything that staff has had, we would really have to redesign the whole project in order to incorporate what staff is requiring of us, particularly because all the area on the east side is floodplain back there, which means that we would be coming between those homes and the stream buffer behind the homes on the one side. So we literally, if we're trying to maintain the number of units and the integrity of the project as it stands, we would have to literally come behind homes, existing homes, and I just don't see that as being viable. We feel very confident that the amenity areas, there are 3 separate amenity areas that are currently proposed within the community that the HOA is going to have to maintain. Those come at a cost to the HOA. The more amenities you put in, the higher the HOA dues are. And I think that there has to be a level of fairness. We feel that for the 112 homes that are on that side, along with the other homes on the other side, that the 3 amenity areas that we're proposing are sufficient.
No further questions for me.
I believe Ms. Randolph.
Actually, for the applicant, so how different is it going to be on the Henry County side to the Clayton? Is this going to,
Our desire is for it to be alike.
Okay.
That doesn't feel like, even though staff said that that's what they were trying to achieve, based on the requirements that have been proposed, it's not going to feel alike, particularly, again, when we put in the buffers and the like. It's condensing the lots. It is, making it, development cost and home cost and infrastructure. That's not going to change much. But now we're talking about, potentially a significant number in reduction of the number of homes, which means that the price points have to go up. We've got to have, the cost of all the sewer, as he indicated, that we have to run the sewer line. All those things play in to the cost of the homes that are going to be built. And we want this to be a unified community. We don't want it to look drastically different on the Henry County side, which is why we're vehemently opposed to the 4-sided brick. That's not a requirement on the Clayton County side. So why require 4-sided brick homes in Henry County to make those the more expensive homes, I presume, while on the Clayton County side, there's going to be a difference in the home value.
price point?
Um,
Without the extra things, what's the price point?
We're already over $350,000. We are, staff is requiring, and Clayton County as well is requiring some ranch homes to be developed on the site. We'll kind of work our way through what that percentage is, but we are required to do some single-family ranch homes as well as two-story homes on the site. Again, that's a shifting cost and value on there, but we're assuming that the ranch homes will probably be somewhere in the 300s, and the two-story homes will be, upper 3s, probably 4s, moving up in that direction.
How many homes do you already have on the Clayton County side?
224, but that is split between the homes that are septic and the homes that are non-septic.
And approximately how much do those homes cost currently?
There's no homes built yet.
There's no homes built?
No, ma'am.
So you're trying to make the price points the same in both?
Yeah, kind of similar within the communities. And I think the irony of this is that we started this on the Clayton County side back in 2020. House prices were not where they are now.
Any additional questions for the applicant? I have a few questions. Let's start with staff. Back to the buffer. Now, is it any way that they can start that buffer on the actual property and move between the two properties?
It's certainly a way. That's an extra condition. That's just something they would have to negotiate with the commissioner. But yes, it's not a requirement. It's just a condition.
Okay, so if the builder decided to go that route, I guess that condition would be that the homeowner would not obstruct that buffer.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Okay.
It would read as an undisturbed buffer, but it would have to be monitored by the HOA, not maintained, but the HOA would be responsible for making sure people don't tear up the buffer on their own property.
Okay. So that part can be worked out.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Chair, I would like to point out that in previous zoning cases we have allowed this buffer to be on the lots. However, we realized that there was some concerns regarding drainage easements. Properties in a subdivision in Henry County require a 10-foot wide drainage easement on the side and rear property lines. That requirement was in conflict with the buffer condition being on the lots, which is the reason why we're shifting to outside of the lots.
Okay. So that drainage, we could be at a property where we don't have proper draining due to the fact that we can't go inside the buffer.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Now, I guess my question is, and I have to ask this candidly, Ms. Bell, why haven't we worked all this out prior to this meeting?
We've tried.
Okay, and the reason I ask is because I don't know how we're going to approve based on staff conditions, and you guys have conditions that if we approve it based on staff conditions, you haven't worked it out, we're still at a point where you're not approved.
So we've tried to work those conditions out with staff. We've had a meeting. We advised about what our challenges were with regards to the conditions. Staff did make some modifications, but did not make all the modifications, obviously, that we were hopeful for. And so the feeling was that we would come through here. We won't I'd say fight the moment tonight, but look to try and address the balance of the conditions between now and the Board of Commissioners and see whether we can hammer out any compromise, so to speak, between now and then, because obviously the 10-foot, and that's kind of the first I've heard about the drainage issue, but having that 10-foot in between is a challenge for us if we're trying to maintain the integrity of the project as we have currently proposed. I don't see any way that we can keep the design that we have if we have to put a 10-foot drainage easement in between, because I'm showing you a plan now that already only has 10,890 square foot lots. So we know that there's going to have to be some movement or some loss of lots, so to speak, in order to make these lots bigger to accomplish the 11,250 square feet. And then they want that at an average of 12,000 square feet, minimum 11,250. So, you know, we've got to make some adjustments there. But when you toss in that additional 10 feet in between, from our perspective, the 10-foot buffer should go away then, as opposed to imposing something on us that quite honestly is not on the Clayton County side. This side is now going to look different. There's going to be this buffer in between that won't be on the Clayton County side. If this were 100% Clayton, then I could see that requirement. But when we're between two subdivisions that are trying to share, you know, common interests, common amenity areas and the like, then we would respectfully request that allow us, you know, the side that has the most units for us to be comparable, particularly when we literally had to go to court to get it approved.
Okay. All right. And now the next thing I got to go back to staff. The three-sided brick. What's the stipulation? I'm sorry, the four-sided brick. What's the stipulation on that requirement?
It's just a condition. So it's just a condition that staff proposed. So it's not a requirement, again. None of these are really requirements. They're just conditions.
Oh, okay.
And all these conditions can be worked out in between now and the
Okay,
Board
so
of
that can
Commissioners.
be worked out. I'm
Yes,
sure
sir.
you can get past that point with, I think it has been masonite siding, some form of masonite siding, and that part I'm pretty sure you can work through.
Absolutely.
All right, but we have to go back to something Mr. VM brought about, which was the entrance and exit requirement. I think that is a county requirement that that's going to be there. I don't know.
I can only tell you I know that John Palmer with Falcon Design has worked on this project for quite some time. It's hard for me to believe that John hasn't had some conversation with Fire and Transportation, but that is certainly something that I can take back. He wasn't able to be here this evening.
Okay. All right. And staff, are we on the same page with?
Yeah, entrance requirements aren't a problem for staff. No, sir.
Okay. Now, I've heard that requirement here numerous of times, and we've approved or disapproved based on that.
But this development is not, it's in addition to an existing subdivision.
Okay.
I think your concern is about the street design
Right.
and the fact that, like I said, if this project was in Henry County, I don't think that there would be any issue with kind of that horseshoe shape of two streets coming out onto one. I haven't seen that here, as long as there's two separate points of entry onto the main roadway. And so I think that, you know, I understand what the concern is, but I think that if you look at most of your subdivisions, that has not proven to be of issue.
Okay. Right. Okay. That part I'm asking.
Yes, sir.
Strictly asking. Okay. All right. I don't have anything further. Any additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay. We have exhausted all the time for anyone wishing to speak in favor. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. And please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Mary Duncan. I live at 14445 Wildwood Road. I've lived there for over 20 years. Most of my neighbors have lived there longer than me. The road in front of my house, part of my property is there. The other part is on Hall Road. It kind of borders Hall Road, and there's a house on the corner there. They're putting the entrance right across from the house on the corner. So it'll be running by part of my house property on one side, and in the front, all of these homes are going right across from us. I have 8.5 acres. Some of my neighbors have more. Some of them have a little less. It's a very quiet community. There's no crime. There's no crime. Everyone gets along. It's a wonderful place. It's been heaven. I can't imagine how we're going to be able to manage the traffic. There's a terrible curve right there where they want to put the entranceway into. We've had people killed there. I mean, it's been a while, but we've had people that were riding their horses, struck by cars, and killed right there. We have people that race. We have street, people come down the street just recently in the last couple of years that race cars down on that road. I can't imagine how we're going to handle any more traffic because we already have so much traffic. Everyone cuts through coming from Fayetteville, trying to get through Lower Woolsey Road. They cut through Hall Road, and then they turn and they go that way. The traffic study that was done was not done on right here at Hall Road where they're trying to put the entrance. That traffic study was done north where Lower Woolsey is located. They never put any strips down. They never did any traffic studies where they're proposing to put this entrance. It's going to be very dangerous. It's already difficult for the school buses to stop and drop kids off and have them load. I worked for Clayton County for 28 years, I taught, and I've called them because it's so dangerous for the kids trying to board the buses on Hall Road. Hall Road's very thin. I just don't know how we're going to handle all of these homes. I don't know how we're going to handle all of this traffic. The land does not perk. It floods. It floods over the highway sometimes. The people that live there, we've kind of gotten used to it. I have a dry creek bed that we were established behind mine to help to mitigate some of the water. When you take all these trees down that they're going to take away for these subdivisions, the flooding is going to be just worse than it is. Right south of us, they talk about a creek. It's not a small creek. It's huge. And you can't, it would be hard for you to walk from one side to the other of the creek. It's not a small creek. It's a large body of water. I just don't think, I know this passed in Clayton County. I couldn't go to all the meetings. I was taking care of my parents. And I know there's nothing we can do about it. It's not that I don't want people to come and live there. I just don't think it should be this compact, houses this dense. If it's not going to work with the buffers, go back to the drawing board. Oh my goodness. Why is that even a question? Make it work. You want it to be cohesive. Well, why does it have to be cohesive? On the Clayton County side, put in the lower income homes. And on the Henry County side, give the people that are medium to higher income, give them a place to have a home. It doesn't all have to be the same. If you look at the impact studies that have been made for homes and what was needed in Clayton County, I'm not sure about Henry County, but we didn't need just the lower income homes. We need middle and higher income homes available to people in our areas. So it doesn't all have to be that way. There's lots of communities where you'll drive in one portion and the homes look like this, maybe with one bricked side, and you drive over to the other side and you've got homes that are a little nicer and they have 4 brick sides. We do have that in Clayton County. So I don't know why you can't have that in Henry County. I don't know why they have to have so many houses. I know they want to make money. I understand that. I understand that. But what's the quality of life for everyone that lives in that area and the people that they're going to be moving in? I know that Henry County does not have the problem with family violence that we have in Clayton County, and that's been historically. We have 1 home in 80 that are victims of family violence in Clayton County, and it's like 1 in 270 in Henry County? Part of the reason is we just cram people in these just right next to one another. They're talking about they're adding on to a subdivision. The subdivision they're adding on to, if you drive through there is 6, 7, 8 cars in each driveway. It's supposed to be single family homes. They're not. They're not. I'm just really concerned. I know I'm not saying we can't do, we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. I'm not saying we can't build homes in there. I don't think they have to be the cheapest thing or the smallest lots available to pad somebody's pockets.
I think we need to think about the culture. I think you need to think about the communities. I think we need to be able to keep some peace in our small panhandle area. Bless your hearts.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'd like for you to state your name and address for the record. I don't recall getting your address.
Okay, it's 14445 Wildwood Road, Hampton, Georgia. Part of my property, though, is on Hall Road also, but it doesn't have an address. I have a garage over there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have about 3 minutes, 30 seconds for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. Does the board have additional questions for staff or the applicant?
Question for that. With the, Clayton County side, since staff here doesn't really know what's gone on over there, the traffic study, has that been accomplished from the Clayton County side, or what's the?
So one of the conditions I believe the staff has in here is for the traffic study to be completed and for us to comply with it. The traffic study, again, I was actually trying to look back while she was talking. I honestly just don't remember because it was in 2020. I'm going to claim senioritis right now because I cannot remember what I did in 2020 right now. But I do know that we met with the transportation department in Clayton County. We had extensive conversations with them about entrance points, about traffic. There are traffic improvements that we are being required to make on the Clayton County side.
At that point, did they know that you might add on another
Absolutely.
112?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This was originally a DRI project.
Okay.
It was intended to be larger than what it is, but the compromise was to reduce it in size. And so this is actually the reduced size project because we were trying to get sewer for the entire project. We could not do that. So a portion of the project is not sewer and a portion of the project is sewer. That's why we can have the smaller lots on the Clayton County side, but that was a compromise that we had to reach.
And staff, with the looking at the traffic stuff, I don't know, how does that work when you're in a different county looking at a different county's road?
It's just something the DOT departments work out amongst
themselves. They're going to have to figure it out.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. I will say that we were very aware of many of the people on the Clayton County side. It was a very hard fought rezone. It wasn't actually a rezoning, it was a platting that we went through, and we met with that community on several occasions to try and address the issues, and that's how we actually came to some compromise. They were very aware of the units that were going to be built on the Henry County side, and we have not changed the number of units.
Any additional questions from the board? Okay, I have one other question for staff. There are some issues that need to be worked out. If this board choose to approve, how do we see a compromise? Do we see it as we can get past these issues, or where will we be? And how will the public be notified?
Right, so ultimately, as you know, the zoning advisory board is just a recommending party.
Right.
Staff is also a recommending party.
Gotcha.
The ultimate decision is left up to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
So that's something that, as staff, as middlemen, we have to work out between the board and the developer or the applicant.
Gotcha.
We are comfortable with that. I mean, quite honestly, I would rather, if you also desire, recommend approval. And we'll work out the rest of the issues in between.
Does the board have additional questions for staff or the applicant? Okay. If not, call the case, please.
RZ 2225, LGS Holdings Group, 2013 LLC of Tucker, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R5 Single Family Residence for property located west of South Lee Road, south of Galway Lane, and east of Wildwood Road in Clayton County, in land lots 13 and 14 of the 3rd District. The property consists of 105.84 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential development. District 1, presented by Kamal Asalam, Interim Assistant Director.
We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes. I'll move to approve with conditions that staff has laid out.
We have a motion by Mr. Neal. Do we have a second? We have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Call the next case, please.
RZ 2304, Meredith Homes, Inc. of McDonough, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence for property located at 1800 McGarity Road in land lot 117 of the 7th District. The property consists of 1.984 plus or minus acres, and the request is for 2 single-family residential lots served by individual septic systems. District 3, presented by Faith Palmer, Planner 1.
Good evening, Chair, board members, and citizens of Henry County. The rezoning request before you is for property located at 1800 McGarity Road. The applicant is requesting to rezone from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence for 2 single-family residential lots served by individual septic systems. Here is a current zoning map of the area with the subject property outlined in green. The property is currently zoned RA Residential Agricultural. 1800 McGarity Road has a future land use designation of low-density residential. The applicant is requesting to rezone 1.984 plus or minus acres from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single-Family Residence for 2 single-family residential lots. The site plan is on the screen. The applicant is proposing, tract 1 is proposed to be 0.992 acres, and tract 2 is also proposed to be 0.992 acres. The property has a future land use designation of low-density residential, which supports this rezoning request. The applicant is requesting to rezone from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single-Family Residence for the purpose of 2 single-family residential lots on septic by way of lot division. The applicant is proposing R2 lots to meet the minimum requirements for, The applicant is proposing R2 lots instead of R1 lots and RA lots because the property cannot be developed. And also, public sewer is not currently available to the subject property according to the Henry County Water Authority. After evaluating the request, staff recommends approval of the applicant's request with the following 5 conditions. They're listed on the screen. Staff recommended a condition requiring the front yard setback requirement of 75 feet to ensure the homes align with the other homes on the road, in addition to the other 4 conditions that will require the home size and materials to match the neighborhood. I'm happy to take any questions.
Does the board have questions for staff?
Yes, I have some. Let's see, this is almost right across the street from the Wilson Brothers Nursery, I believe it's which is a commercial use. And now staff, you have proposed that the front setback, for these 2 homes would be 75 feet. Is that to conform with the remaining lots that are RA?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, so it would, even though it would be divided into lots that are slightly less than an acre, the front setback would comply with any lots that are developed in the RA section of McGarity Road next to it. Is that your thoughts?
Yes, those were thoughts behind that condition.
Okay. All right, I think that's all the questions I have for now.
Any additional questions by the board? Okay, if not, we'd like the applicant to come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Brian Wesley. I live at 209 Millcrest Court, McDonough, Georgia, 30252.
Okay, Brian, do you have anything you'd like to add to staff recommendation?
We're in agreement with all their recommendations.
Okay. Does the board have questions for the applicant?
I don't have any more questions.
Okay. If no questions, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor. I don't see anyone coming forward. We'd also like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Okay. Does the board have questions for staff or the applicant at this point? If not, we'd like to call the case.
RZ 2304, Meredith Homes Incorporated of McDonough, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence for property located at 1800 McGarity Road in Land Lot 117 of the 7th District. The property consists of 1.984 plus or minus acres, and the request is for 2 single-family residential lots served by the individual septic systems. District 3, presented by Faith Palmer, Planner 1.
Okay. We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to rezone the subject property to R2 with the 5 conditions listed in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Richard. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. I think that concludes our cases. Our next meeting is scheduled for July the 13th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. At this time, I'd like to move that, have a motion to adjourn. Okay, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
See why I made you put all that extra shit in here? He should have it.